You never expect the worst things in your life to happen on the day you've planned to feel loved. My name is Lauren, and I wish I could say I was surprised by how my engagement party ended, but something in my gut told me the universe was about to teach me how foolish hope can be. A week before the party, I was still clinging to the idea that Dylan and I had a future. I'd lost my job 3 months earlier, a redundancy my boss called it, and after a brief spiral, I convinced myself I'd bounce back. I didn't tell most people. I didn't want to be that woman, the one who needs saving. Dylan never liked weakness. He was raised to keep moving, but the cracks had started to show. Late-night text arguments about money, my savings draining month by month as rent came due, and my job applications went unanswered. The party was my idea. I needed Dylan to see me as worth staying with, to prove I wasn't falling apart. I forced myself to smile as I dusted shelves and arranged borrowed flowers in thrift store vases. I spent hours writing lists, guest names, playlists, what kind of snacks would look adult enough piled on cheap platters. Monique, my best friend since college, kept texting me to ask if I was sure. She'd always had her doubts about Dylan, or maybe she just worried about what I'd become when I was with him. Clingy, anxious, desperate for control. If you're not sure, you don't have to go through with it, she reminded me late one night after another argument about Airbnb prices for out-of-town guests. I lied. I want this. I even believed it in some part of me that hadn't been worn thin by disappointment. I hadn't yet told Dylan about the pregnancy. I was 11 weeks. Too early, I kept telling myself, but also scared of what his reaction would really be. I didn't want my first child to be a secret, but I needed something pure in this mess. A little hope before I set the world spinning. I planned to tell him after the party. I wanted it to be special. I wanted him to see me as a person with secrets worth loving. Dylan's brother, Tyler, texted all week about logistics. Every message was half helpful, half threat. Don't embarrass Dylan, his boss is coming. Elise will be there, play it cool. Elise, the friend from Dylan's grad school days, recently moved back to town, had always made me nervous. A little too comfortable with Dylan, a little too interested in my place in his life. The day of the party, the apartment felt haunted. I was tense, trying too hard. Dylan kept disappearing to take calls, always with some vague excuse. Work stuff. Tyler needs me. Boss wants a quick word. The buzz of his phone was constant. By 6 o'clock, the place filled with bodies. Dylan's colleagues, Elise, Tyler, a few mutual friends who'd always acted like I was auditioning for a role in Dylan's life. Monique arrived last, arms full of cheap white wine and a "don't worry, I'm watching" look. I tried not to notice how Dylan barely met my eyes, how Elise took up too much space, how Tyler kept scanning the room as though looking for the first sign of weakness. The party unfolded like a choreographed disaster. Small talk that never settled, music that never found a rhythm, laughter that sounded forced. Monique gave a toast, brief, sweet, her eyes lingering on me with a warning I was too numb to process. Tyler's, "Let's hope Lauren keeps it together this year." Everyone laughed politely. No one met my gaze. Then Dylan stood up, glass raised. He was shaking. I saw it then, something final, something cold, in the way he held the box. "I have a little gift for Lauren," he announced, voice wavering but loud. He handed me a silk-wrapped box. My hands trembled as I pulled at the ribbon, heart pounding in my throat. I remember thinking it could be an engagement ring. Maybe he was nervous. Maybe this was the moment everything changed. But when I opened the box, it wasn't a ring. It was a letter. I unfolded it, hands sweating. The handwriting was unmistakably Dylan's, sharp, rushed, a little careless. I read aloud because the room had gone silent. "I can't marry you. You're dragging me under. I found someone who inspires me. Elise makes me feel alive. I want a life, not a rescue mission." My throat closed. The party became a frozen tableau. Dylan set his glass down, nodded once, and walked out. Tyler followed, shrugging. "Told you this would happen." Elise's face was pale but strangely triumphant. The room cracked. Some guests tried to comfort. Most slipped away, murmuring apologies, careful not to meet my eyes. Monique took my hand and squeezed. I never cried in front of them. I waited until the apartment was empty, until Monique locked the door and sat beside me on the cold tile, wine spilled on her leggings, pity curdling her voice. "You're better off," she whispered, but neither of us believed it. I remember the sound of my heart in my ears, a dull, angry thrum. I remember staring at the letter, wanting it to change, wanting Dylan to come back and say it was all a sick joke. I remember thinking that was the moment my life broke for good. After the party collapsed, Monique was the only person who didn't try to escape my grief. She sat on the kitchen floor with me, her knees drawn up, picking at the sleeve of her sweater, searching for something helpful to say, but coming up empty. Outside, the city throbbed with life, while in my apartment, everything was still and sour. I stared at my hands, at the letter, at the empty gift box. My mind pinged between numbness and rage. The baby, a secret still nestled beneath layers of shame, made me feel both more alone and more responsible than ever. I kept picturing Dylan handing me the box, the look in his eyes, the way he leaned away from me like I'd burned him. Monique cleaned up around me. She canceled the cake order. She stuffed leftover snacks into Ziplocs. She ignored her buzzing phone. Her boyfriend was wondering when she'd be home. She didn't ask questions. For once, her comfort was the absence of advice. Dylan didn't call. Tyler sent a text 3 hours later. "Don't make this worse for him." Elise posted an Instagram story from a bar, smiling next to Dylan. New memories. I felt my mouth twist into something ugly, something jealous and broken. I checked Dylan's socials. My face erased from every profile photo. Our status changed. Single. Friends unfriended me in waves. Even my own cousin texted, "Sorry, but I don't want drama." It was as if Dylan's breakup was a contagious disease, and everyone was scrambling to stay clear. At 2 a.m., Monique forced me to drink water and try to sleep. I laid on my side, hand over my stomach, listening to the city outside and the sound of Monique whispering into her phone, promising she'd be home soon, lying for me. Morning came sharp and unkind. The daylight found all my soft spots. I checked our joint savings and my heart clenched. Dylan had emptied it. Rent was overdue. 2 missed payments. Eviction was now looming. My inbox filled with bills and warnings. I found a paper trail, a gift receipt for jewelry delivered to a name I didn't recognize. Elise. Another receipt. Dinner for 2 at the high-rise steakhouse I'd begged him to take me to someday. More charges. Hotel rooms, flowers, all within the last 2 months. My stomach twisted. Monique sat across from me, face pale. I saw him with Elise last month. I convinced myself it was nothing. I swallowed hard. Did Tyler know? She nodded, her voice so small I barely recognized it. He was covering for him. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was laugh, a jagged, bitter sound that felt more like breaking than relief. By afternoon, the world closed in. My parents called, their voices sharp and critical. "Why do you always attract chaos, Lauren?" they asked. No sympathy, just judgment, and a sigh that made it clear. No money, no help. Friends disappeared, mutuals ghosted me. Gina, a work acquaintance, sent a text. "Sorry, don't want to get dragged in." My phone was quiet for hours. Then Tyler sent one more message. "Think of the kind of mother you'll be. Don't bring a kid into your mess." As I pressed my palms to my ears, tried to shut it out, I felt the first sobs rack my body as panic rose. Monique tried to comfort me, but I pushed her away, barricading myself in the bedroom, clutching my stomach and wondering if this baby would be better off never knowing me. That night, insomnia won. I scrolled through Dylan's and Elise's social feeds, photos pouring in, friends cheering on their brave new start. Elise, radiant, posting inspirational quotes about letting toxic people go, above selfies in my old apartment. I smashed a glass in the sink and spent half an hour picking shards out of my palm. Monique came in, didn't even flinch, just wrapped my hand, told me she'd handle the mess in the morning. I didn't believe her. I didn't believe anyone. Days blurred into one another. I stopped answering calls. I let emails pile up, rent overdue reminders, job rejections, the electric bill past due. Most of my world was the hollow thud of my heart and the baby's presence. Nausea, fear, and a brittle faith that maybe things couldn't get much worse. Monique tried, she truly did, but there's only so much a person can do before exhaustion wins. She had her own life. Some days she'd text 3 times, some days not at all. I started keeping a diary, not of hope or plans, but of ruins. Every humiliation, every transgression logged. I called it the Ruin Diary. It kept me tethered, the only evidence my life wasn't slipping into oblivion without a record. March 19th, Dylan emptied savings. April 7th, found receipt to Elise's address. April 10th, Tyler text, called me unfit mother. April 12th, Monique confessed she knew about Elise. There was no comfort in writing, but at least it kept my hands busy while sleep abandoned me. The pregnancy was growing harder. I lost weight instead of gaining it. My hair began to fall out in clumps, stress gnawing at every edge. I scheduled an OB appointment only to cancel the morning of. Didn't have cab fare. Insurance had lapsed. Dylan posted a truth essay on Facebook. He was rescued from a toxic relationship, felt reborn with Elise, and was taking steps to restore his life. Tyler echoed the post with his own comment, "Family first, we always rise." My stomach burned. Late one night, as I walked past the closet Dylan never bothered to clean out, I found a tangle of old credit cards and bank stubs. I pieced together the story in the silence of insomnia. Dylan hadn't just left me, he'd ruined me. Unpaid shared bills, fraudulently claimed expenses for his own luxuries, I snapped photos, emailed them to myself. Elise wasn't the only woman. There were dinners, gifts, hotel rooms for 2 or 3. Each time he left for work travel, there was someone else. Even the steakhouse receipt had another name attached, a string of overlapping affairs. Monique was the only person who saw the evidence. Her face changed as she skimmed the emails, the statements. He's not just selfish, he's malicious. Gina, my last remaining friendly acquaintance, sent a final text. It's all over Discord. People think you're unstable. She stopped replying after that. Online, the narrative had shifted. Lauren was drama queen, unstable ex, Dylan's cautionary tale. My parents never called again. On the morning of April 23rd, I woke up with blazing cramps. I barely made it to the kitchen before collapsing, breathless, clutching my belly. I dialed 911 with shaking hands. The ambulance siren drowned out my screams. I spent 27 hours in the hospital. The nurse recognized me. She'd seen the party photos, the viral breakup letter. For a little while, she was distant, but when I broke down, she softened. Tears are universal. Pain is a language everyone understands. The baby survived, but I was put on bed rest, alone. Lying alone in the hospital bed, hooked up to an IV and listening to machines beep, I realized some part of me had shut off. No one came to visit. Monique texted that she was stuck in meetings all day but sent hearts and hang-in-there gifs. My parents never even replied when I left messages telling them I was in the hospital. Tyler kept sending cruel missives, screenshotted, pasted into my ruined diary for proof. You're trying to weaponize your tragedy. Dylan's better off without you. Elise posted selfies with Dylan, tagged at clubs and rooftop bars. Their group of friends, once mine apparently, commented with hearts and fire emojis, cheering them on for their new adventure. For days, I raged so hard my body trembled. There was no relief. The pain only worsened. I went home, alone, to an apartment that felt like a mausoleum. Dust hung in the air, sour-smelling takeout stacked on end tables. Bills piled up behind the door, one for past due rent, another alerting me my power might be cut off. I sat on the living room floor, legs curled around my aching belly. The baby's heartbeat was the only ticker keeping time in a world that refused me comfort. I opened the ruined diary and wrote, "Some things break so badly, you run out of rage." At 2 a.m., another panic attack. When I surfaced, gasping, I made a decision. If I couldn't win, I'd make Dylan and Elise lose. I compiled every receipt, every stolen dollar, every explicit message. The file was massive. Dozens of hotel bookings, work expense fraud, jewelry sent to Elise, and as I discovered, 2 other women. I created an anonymous email account and sent everything to Dylan's boss, subject line, fraud and misconduct. I CC'd Elise's boyfriend, a hapless, dough-faced finance bro I found on LinkedIn. The next morning, I sent off the tip and waited. I expected the world to roar with justice. Instead, my phone stayed bitterly silent. A day passed, then 2, then Dylan's boss called him in. By day's end, Dylan was suspended pending investigation. Elise's boyfriend posted a rant about two-faced cheaters and threatened legal action. Tyler exploded online, launching a campaign against vindictive exes. Screenshots of my texts, taken out of context, were posted to groups where people I once called friends piled on. Messy Lauren, ruining lives as always. Dylan texted only once. "You've proved me right." The story spread. Elise's viral "I stole a man and lost everything" post got spread by an influencer. Comments poured in, some damning Dylan and Elise, most mocking me, accusing me of orchestrating my humiliation for clout. "Maybe Lauren should focus on her baby instead of her sob story," one wrote. Monique, overwhelmed, began to withdraw. "I have to step back. This is just too much right now. I'm sorry," she texted after a night of radio silence. She muted our chat. Gina blocked me. My parents, nothing. It was as if my pain was radioactive. People fled, fearing the fallout would stain them forever. Pregnancy complications multiplied with every new stress. I couldn't sleep. I lost weight. My hair thinned out almost overnight. When the cramps returned, I begged the nurse to just knock me out. She sat beside me, quiet, offered no empty words. I was kept overnight again. No visitors. I scrolled the comments on Dylan and Elise's posts. Not to torture myself, but to see if anyone, anywhere, believed me. No one defended me. A few even speculated about the baby. Bet she'll say it's his just to keep him close. Wouldn't be surprised if she made it all up. Discharged, I returned to an apartment dustier and emptier than before. The walls felt closer. I checked the ruined diary. Pages and pages, damning and pointless. I tried calling Monique. Voicemail. Tried my mother. Voicemail. Tried Dylan, not to beg, just to hear his voice, to feel that he existed in the same world as I did. He didn't answer. A week later, the landlord delivered the notice. I'd be evicted in 30 days. Standing in the living room, clutching my swollen belly, I looked around and wondered where all my choices had gone. Eviction notice in hand, I looked around at the empty apartment and felt something I hadn't in weeks. Anger with a purpose. There's a kind of freedom that comes when you hit rock bottom, when you realize there's nothing left of the life you built for someone else, so you finally have permission to build something for yourself. The first thing I did was text my landlord, begged for just a week, then 2. He agreed only because, over the years, I'd always been polite and on time. I sat on the floor and made a list, not of everything I'd lost, but of things I could still control. Step 1. Find work. Any work. I put away pride, signed up for gig shifts, dog walking, temp admin jobs, online editing. The money was pitiful, but it was something. And each deposit was a tiny act of defiance against Dylan's theft and my own despair. Step 2. See a doctor. I traded stories of trauma for a prescription and a note for discounted counseling at a clinic. It occurred to me, sitting under the humming fluorescence, that I could finally tell the truth without worrying about looking weak. Grief poured out. With each session, I learned to aim it at the future. Step 3. Sell what I could, leave what I couldn't. Goodbye. The sofa Dylan picked, the blender from our wedding shower, the stack of unopened cookbooks from his mother. I kept 1 cracked mug, 3 changes of clothes, every ultrasound pic, and my ruined diary. Everything else funded a deposit on a tiny, sunlight-drenched studio miles away from Dylan's world. Monique, after weeks of silence, texted to apologize. I abandoned you, there's no excuse. Maybe I should have told her to get lost, but you don't throw away the people who try, even if they do it badly. She helped me haul boxes. I let her hold my hand as we watched the movers shove my sad pile of possessions into the truck. There were setbacks, more bills I'd forgotten, sudden fevers, a bout of bronchitis that put me in urgent care with no one to call. I cried, then raged, then forced myself to keep going. Rebuilding meant tracking every dollar, eating bland food for weeks, bargaining for every small kindness. But as the scaffolding of my new life took shape, I felt something like pride. When the baby, Amelia, finally arrived, it was hours of sweat and pain in a hospital bed I'd paid for with my own labor. No visitors but Monique and a young nurse who played old pop songs on her phone to drown out my moans. When they laid Amelia on my chest, I wept. Not because the pain was over, but because for the first time since the party, I felt I was earning something no one could take away. I did not call Dylan. Word got out anyway. He sent a message. Is she mine? That I deleted without answering. Elise, now dumped and universally pitied after Dylan's HR scandal, sent an email apologizing for getting caught in his mess. I moved it to spam and blocked her. But I wasn't done with Dylan. The evidence I'd gathered, receipts, screenshots, fraudulent expense reports, wasn't enough to ruin him last time, when everyone wrote me off as bitter. But a few months later, I saw my opening. Dylan had landed a new job after his scandal blew over, courtesy of Tyler's connections. He bragged online, twisting the story so he seemed the wounded party, martyred by crazy exes. I sent an anonymous packet, every piece of proof, neatly highlighted and explained, to Tyler's fiancé, who happened to work in compliance at the same company. Within weeks, an internal audit was ordered. Tyler was implicated in covering for Dylan's schemes. Both were let go. Dylan tried to message me, first furious, then pleading. I ignored him. It wasn't the satisfaction I'd expected, but it was something, and it was mine. Amelia grew, healthy and strong. My world grew tentatively larger. Weekends at the park, late-night coffee on my stoop, telling and retelling my story to women who'd been burned by the same brand of cruelty. Monique brought laughter back, teaching me to breathe between panic attacks. Months passed. I never reconnected with my parents, but I built a fridge full of baby art and birthday cards from new friends. My old wounds scarred over, not forgotten, but no longer gaping. Sometimes I saw Dylan's name pop up on news feeds. Another failed job, another messy breakup, his reputation finally catching up with him. I felt nothing. Late one sleepless night, I opened my ruined diary. On the last page, I wrote, "He gave me a letter. I wrote the rest of the story." And I closed the book. Not happy, not healed, but no longer broken.